Good morning. Welcome back. I took the day off from filming yesterday. Did a little bit of seed business, went around, saw a couple of my customers. What did I do in the afternoon? I was back in the afternoon, but I don't know. I was working on a computer, doing some stuff, and just didn't feel like filming anything, so I didn't. Anyway, I got a seed truck delivery in this morning already. We got 2 boxes of beans and a pallet of some paper bags that are right there. It is not warm out yet, but it is supposed to be in the 60s today and nice, and then in the 50s most of next week. We're going to fire the seed treater up here and start treating beans probably Monday or Tuesday, and so we need to get some heat in here. So I've got a propane tank here, our 100-pound tank, whatever that is, and my little big heater. And we're gonna fire it up and start pumping some heat into this building. You ready? Boom! We'll burn through that whole thing in a day. I don't know if I got it quite full anyway, but yeah. It doesn't keep it 80 degrees in here, but it keeps it in the about 20 or 30 degrees above ambient temperature outside usually. The idea is to warm the beans up. Now those beans are sitting there in that big pile. They're in the boxes. It's going to take a long time to get the heat to migrate to the center of the boxes. I need the bean temperature to be 40 degrees minimum when we're treating. 50 degrees is better, but minimum of 40 degrees. And that's so that the treatment will stick to them and will cover properly and adhere and not just kind of glob up and then they get sticky and uneven and yeah. So that's why we do some heat. So we're gonna run this the rest of this week and all weekend and hopefully try and keep it 60, 65 degrees in here at least. And then by Monday, those beans should be warmed up a little bit. This right here is the reason that I set a propane tank right outside that wall over there for my house and ran the line out there, because I would love to come off of that tank into here, into a heater. I want to put radiant tube heaters in here. We haven't got there yet. Eventually that will happen. My little 500-gallon tank out there is not going to cut it anyway once we get to this, doing this. But this is the 1 week of the entire year that I run any heat in here. It's not like I do it all the time and I'm keeping it warm all winter, and so it's really hard to justify spending $15,000, $20,000 to insulate and putting up a nice heating system and stuff for this 1 week. Eventually, I would like to insulate. I would like to have heat out here, be able to do more stuff out here in the winter. Not necessarily workshop type stuff, but just having a nice place to come out and play with my kids and do stuff. So that may happen in the future, but for right now, this is sufficient. I may try and find some fans. I know we've got some box fans I can set on the ground just to keep some air circulating. But we might have a ceiling fan that I might be able to hang up relatively easily. So I'll look around and see, and just keeping some air moving and keeping the heat pushed down would help warm stuff up a little faster, I think. So I am back to working on the planter. I'm trying to figure out hydraulic hoses today, and it's a little confusing because there's 2 options on how we can run that. We can run it back up to the tractor to its own outlet, which on this new tractor we do have, but if I had to plant with one of the other tractors for some reason, I don't really have an extra outlet, but we can make it work. Or I can tie into the CCS circuit, which my dealer who I bought this from says everyone they've ever sold is tied into the CCS circuit, and that's just the way they do them. But the book suggests you go to the front. There are some advantages to having it on its own outlet from the tractor. Yeah, several, but anyway. Plus, when I talked about this before, I had about 15 of you tell me that you should just run it to its own outlet and not to the CCS fan circuit, which, I mean, I understand it. And so I'm trying to figure out how to do that. I need a piece of flat plate steel, something to make a bracket to hold hoses if I'm going to do that. So that's why I'm out here in our steel pile trying to see what we've got. I need like a 7x7 piece of flat plate steel that I can make up a holder basically to route the hoses through to organize stuff a little bit, because if I'm going to do it and I'm going to go spend the money and take the time to route hoses all the way up to the tractor, I'm going to do it right. All right, so I found this. It's an old auger cover from a grain tank in a combine, actually, but I'm going to cut out a plate here, and I'll show you what I'm trying to do here real fast. But I'm trying to make something to hold hoses like this. We're going to mount it right in the center, so we got a couple of places for these hoses. So Phil's working in the shop today, and he has the radio on, and so this is going to be very difficult for me to film today, so I apologize right now. There's my plate. Holes and everything. It should work. So we got to drill some bigger holes, but I need to get some fittings and figure out what all we're going to need, and I'm trying to break it so that our hoses aren't one continuous run all the way from the tractor back to our pump. We're actually going to have 3 separate pieces. One to go from the tractor back to the planter. From there, we're going to have to go on top of this rail because there's no way we're going to get it in there. And then we'll put a break here where the rest of them are, and then we'll go from here around and up to the pump. So yeah, it's just a lot, and we got to measure and make sure they're all the right length, because while you don't want them too short, you also don't want them too long. Okay, well, I'm making a little bit of progress, so I need to measure the lengths of my hoses, and I can try and just trust tape measure, but I decided to pull one of these fertilizer tube hoses that we're done with, and I'm actually going to kind of stretch that in there and route it where I need it to be routed, and then we should be able to measure it a little bit better and more accurately. And then we'll go get some hoses made up. Well, I got some hoses made up, a couple of them. So I've figured out how long they need to be, and I'm working on getting fittings around and stuff. The place where I get the hoses, they don't carry the bulkhead fittings. So there's this plate here, and we just happen to have 2 holes that I would like to use, just like these are, with this bulkhead connector. But they don't carry those, so I've got to find those somewhere else, probably get them from John Deere. And then I'm making the same thing, making a plate up here to use, because we don't have any extra holes in these brackets. We're going to make our own up here in the middle, and those are on a 45-degree angle, so we'll get a connector for those as well, and then the hoses to go up to the tractor. And I need to get quick coupler ends as well. So the place that I do get the hoses made, though, they're close, right down the road, super nice, but they ran out of hose, and they didn't have enough fittings. So they were going to get more in this afternoon, hopefully. We might have to go back tomorrow, but at least these will get us started. This is the hoses to go from the pump around through our pivot and then to right here. So we're going to run those. Okay, so we got those 2 hoses run. We got a fair bit of slack in there. And they go back, and then they're connected to the pump. I got to tighten them up yet, but we got them put inside this sleeve here, inside that sleeve, up to right here where they're going to connect to this bulkhead here. Probably a little extra will make those fit. That'll work. I'm still got to get the next set of hoses and everything, and I got to get these fittings, which are going to come from 2 different sources. Anyway, we're going to work on the plumbing to each individual row now from our check valve, shut-off valves there. And so this is what we've got, and it's coming, right? So this was coming from our flow meters before. We've got a check valve here, a metering orifice on the old system, and then it connects to this 1/4-inch tubing, which goes down into the opener, which this tube then drops it down the backside of the boot, comes out right in there. Okay. I was hoping that we would be able to just disconnect this here and connect the new system to this and leave the stuff down the row. That is, however, not going to work, and I'll go show you why. So I've talked about it a little bit, but our new system uses these metering tubes instead of an orifice. I'm going to talk about that in just a minute, but let's talk about how we're connecting to the row unit first. So we're coming out of our check valve shut-off valves here. It's a dual purpose. It's got a check valve in it, and it's got shut-off valves for each of these tubes. There's 2 tubes. They are going to come out to each individual row. Those tubes are all the same length. Those are all 8 foot long. So the end one here, we don't have very much extra. This one, we've got a little bit more. We're going to have more right in the center, and then less as we go back towards the center of the planter. Now, this Y connector here is a push connect, just like the fittings that were on, where'd one go? Right here, right? So that's the same style of fittings. However, This is 1/4-inch line. This connector on the single port of the Y is a 3/8. And so it will not connect directly to those hoses. And so what Surefire has given us in order to do that then is a hose barb with a flat, a smooth piece to connect. So this piece right here. So it connects to that push connect Y. That goes in there. And then it is 3/8 hose barb, which explains why they gave me 400 feet of 3/8 hose. We're going to use this here. So we're actually going to replace everything all the way down to that Y on these, or not to the Y, to the stainless tube that goes to the openers. So we're going to take all of this stuff off. We don't need this check valve. We don't need this orifice or any of this 1/4-inch tubing. It's going to go all the way down to here where we're going to put our 3/8 hose. Slides right on there. So we're going to end up with something that looks like this. So we're going to come out of our Y and then just a single piece of hose. We're trying to follow the same path. I'm going to get some more of the clips. These are too small because they're for 1/4-inch tubing. So we're going to get some for 3/8 hose and put them on there and then hose barb it right to that stainless line. So Brock's going through and taking all the old stuff off, and I'm going to keep working on routing the metering tubes and just trying to make sure they're all good. We've got some bigger clamps we're going to put on here, and we're going to have a lot of zip ties, and everything's going to look nice and neat when we're done, but we're going to have a little bit of coiled up hose. So let's talk about why don't we need a check valve or an orifice on each individual row like we had in the past, right? That's one of the big advantages with the Surefire system and the way that they do stuff. They use metering tubes instead of orifices. And what the orifices do is there's a small little tiny hole in there. In fact, I should take one apart and see if I can show you. Hold on. Okay, so here's our check valve, and this is just a cap with a little spring in there, and the liquid, once it pushes on it, it pushes the cap in, then it can flow around it and down through the meter. When it shuts off, the pump shuts off, the pressure goes down, that spring closes, keeps it from dribbling, okay? That is being replaced with a check valve in up there. So we have check valves, they're still there. We're not gonna drain the whole tube out because of surface tension, and it won't drain that whole hose. Maybe this 3/8 hose up to where our Y is there, but even that I'm not sure that will even drain out because there's no way to get air in it. So anyway, this piece here is the old orifice. And if you look in there, you can see, if I get it held just right, that little tiny hole there, right? It's not very big, but that is what created the back pressure from the pump in order to make sure that every row got an even amount of liquid on it. And so we came out of our manifold block, this black one sitting right here. Our feed came in here. We came out the back of it with all of those. That split the flow up. We went through these meter tubes just to see that there was flow, and then those orifices created the back pressure in order to make sure that all of them were flowing evenly. Well, if you'll remember back to some of my planning videos, for those of you that have been around for a year or so now, you'll know that I have trouble with stuff plugging these up fairly consistently, and they're a real pain to clean out. You got to take them apart and wash them out, and there's fertilizer everywhere. You get little pieces of stuff stuck in there. I do have a filter on this system, but it still gets through. We still get those problems. Well, the advantage to metering tubes is the hole in these tubes is much bigger than the orifice, like 10 times the size. And it's because we're using length to control that flow instead of just a little tiny opening. And so those tubes are all 8 foot long, they're all the same size, and we can pick either one or the other or both of these tubes depending on how much flow we need, and control the pressure in our system, not the rates, but the pressure in our systems based on how much or which tube that we decide to use, or whether we use both of them. And that gives us a wide application range at varying products and temperatures and everything else to keep the system within the right pressure range. So that's why we don't need an orifice anymore, and that's why it doesn't matter if they're all the same length, because our metering tubes are the same length, so it doesn't matter if this hose is the same length. In most cases, they're gonna be. Maybe not always, especially when we get to the center there, but that hose beyond the metering tube can be any size that we need because it's going to be low pressure. It's after the metering tube or the piece that's controlling the flow and keeping it even to every row. Well, we're making progress here. So we got that side about done and we've got this side about done. We got 2 more runs to make to go to the 2 on this side of the main frame and same on the other side there. Those center 4 don't fold, and so we got to be careful with how we route the hoses around the fold mechanism and stuff. So when Brock gets done with the last 2 rows here, he's adding the black hose from the metering tubes down. We're going to fold it up part way, and that way we can get in there and we can kind of see what stays and what moves and how we need to route them exactly. Plus, it's easier to get in there because we're not working on this front bar. We're working on the one behind it to get to those openers, and it's a little hard to get to right now. So, but it's going pretty well. We're relatively neat. I've got some coils here where we're close that we don't need. You know, you got to have it on there because they all got to be the same length. But you get out here and there's just a little bit extra. The ones in the center, there's actually no extra. You just run it straight and then run the black hose the rest of the way. So there's our partial fold, and you can see how that front bar separates from the back openers here, and then why we need to go into the center and then come back around up here and down and not just across the back there. So we need to keep a real close eye on stuff the first time we fold it up just to make sure that everything is right and gonna fold and not stretch. But we're just screwing this a little bit and we'll finish running our hoses. Well, we've got all those metering tubes plumbed in there, trying to wrap up some stuff. So I'm waiting on a few fittings. We're not gonna be able to get this done for a few days because I ordered some hydraulic fittings. I should be able to go back tomorrow and get the rest of our hoses made up, but I need the bulkhead connectors and stuff. And I ordered those today, so I finally figured out what I needed. And I ordered some more plumbing fittings. There's just 1 or 2 pieces that I need that didn't come with the kit because I'm customizing. Yeah, I thought I might have some parts out here for some stuff, but anyway, the rest of it's done. We've got the row units and the planter side of everything is good to go. The only thing we need to do is grease the gauge wheel pivots. Everything else was greased before we put it away and has fresh green grease in it, so that's good. So we're about done with this planter, which is good. So we're gonna keep working with our or get going on seed treatment and some of this other stuff here pretty quick. It is the 30th of March and I've done nothing with seeds, so it's time. Also, we're finally getting some decent weather again. It's nice out today. It's supposed to cool down again, but 40s and 50s more so now than 20s and 30s. 2 days ago, yesterday morning, it was 18 degrees when I got to the farm yesterday morning. So today it's almost 70. Quite a change. Uh-oh, never a good sign when Dad brings the backhoe back and parks in front of the shop with the bucket and boom out like that. Could be just greasing, but I hope he didn't break a hose or blow a hose or break something. Just greasing, nothing wrong. All right, well, we had a good day. We got a lot done on that planter and figured out what we need for the rest of it. So tomorrow I'll try and get the rest of my hydraulic hoses made up, and I doubt any of my parts will show up tomorrow, so we'll have to find something else to work on. I was gonna have Brock get the seed plates out and clean those and spray graphite on the back and stuff, so he's gonna work on that tomorrow. And I might work down in my seed warehouse a little bit. I don't know, we'll find something to do. So thanks for watching today. Have a great night, and hit that like and subscribe button. Questions, comments, leave them down below. We'll see you guys tomorrow.